Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sonictalk episode 695, recording today live on Wednesday, the 15th of December, 2021, at least live for those who can receive it. Apparently, the cloud is calling, and it's having a bit of a hissy fit, as has been happening a lot this week with AWS outages and all kinds of stuff going on. But Twitch is apparently not terribly happy. But that's all right, because you can watch this pre-show and all the ad-free stuff on our Patreon. There you go. How's that for a bit of a slick plug? This is a Patreon where you can see all of our stuff ad-free. There's also extras, patches, samples, all kinds of other stuff down there. We're getting quite a collection there. And if you sign up before the end of the program to our upper tier, you would be able to see your name in lights in the title and the closing credits, because it's automatically generated and pulls it from a live feed. How about that for something slick? It might be the only slick thing that happens at the show, but I'm pretty much sure it won't be. This is a music technology podcast. Of course, we talk about things to do with music production, synthesizers, studio, recording, live production, all of the things that kind of surround the whole thing that is currently what we call, or used to call, the music industry. I don't know whether it's that anymore, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. So let's just say hello to our friends over in the YouTube chat. Nice to see you there. We've also got the IRC. We've got our new IRC server up running, thanks to Wagyu. Very kind of him to take on that technical challenge. And also we're streaming via Twitch, hopefully, and Facebook Live and all of those things. So I want to say thanks to all of those people for joining us. And we've got guests. We have many guests. I think I'm going to start with Mr. Gaz Williams there in Bristol. We haven't seen Gaz for ages. Gaz has been off in the world performing and doing rock and roll things, at least some of it. I know you had a bit of a rocky road to that route, but how are you, Gaz?
Yeah, so I mean, for those of you who don't know, I mean, I'm currently playing with Mr. Martin Carr. Now, Martin, very, critically acclaimed songwriter, made his name in the 90s with the Boo Radleys, and subsequently with Brave Captain, and he goes out under his own name now, Martin Carr, which is really great fun. I'm playing bass along with Bernie, great drummer, fantastic drummer actually. Bernie also runs Music Box, which is Wales's premier rehearsal studio space. Nice plug there.
Oh,
but it
well
really
done.
is. Music Box is where I rehearse with Charlotte Church and the Pop Dungeon as well. So super duper. It's great having Bernie though. He's like just super pro. He's got this. He takes out this kind of Pelly case that's just got every single little nubbin tool for any eventuality.
One of those. Has it got paracord in it? That's always the sign of whether somebody's really prepared. If you've got paracord in there, then you're ready for almost anything.
And we got a guy called Matthew Frederick on keys, and he's actually rocking a pair of Nords on this tour. So he's using a Nord piano, an 88 grand, the 88 weighted keys one, and an Electro 2, I think, on the top there. So Nord, it's definitely a very Nordy show. But Martin's singing and playing 12-string electric guitar that he's actually running out into pedalboard, which splits into a Marshall amp, but also into a Roland JC stereo amp.
Nice. So
the JC is stereo mic'd and the Marshall's mic'd, and he's playing 12 strings. So we're getting a lot of guitar.
A full sound.
Yeah. So it's just like a 4-piece, and we're playing with the Charlatans, supporting Charlatans on their what should have been their 30th anniversary. I think it's their 31st anniversary due to it being a postponed tour. But I have to say, this tour is quite hard work because we are having to COVID bubble it, which
so you're getting all the work and none of the fun.
It's all the work, none of the fun. Yeah. I mean, we turn up to the venues and then we have to set up. Typically, we set up on the floor of the venue in front of the stage. Charlatans will do their sound check, and then when we're ready, we'll load up onto the stage. We can't even hang out with the Charlatans. We have to kind of stay sort of, it's super strict. I mean, for obvious reasons, it's kind of a miracle to be actually out there playing. Yeah. As soon as we've finished, though, we do have to just de-rig, and we have to skedaddle before the Charlatans even, play. Or we typically manage to get out during their first number, and
so it's real,
tough. Yeah. However, it's either that or
not at all,
or no, or not at all. So so we understand, and we're having great fun with each other. It's like there's a lot of laughs, and there's a lot of internal
I'm glad to.
memes and
I'm
things
glad to.
going on.
I mean, imagine you're massively focused on that, and as it should be. I mean, obviously, we should point. It's not that everybody's kind of worried about getting sick necessarily for themselves. It's that if somebody does, show's over. You know, nobody gets to see the band because they then have to. You know, which is what happened to you, didn't it? You know, at the beginning.
Yeah. So it was absolutely, for me, a personal tragedy because it was the day before the final rehearsal. That's 2 days before we were due to head off on the tour, and I got struck down by the dreaded COVID. You know, and I tested positive in the evening, and I wanted to make sure, you know, so in the next morning, then again, it tried the test. These are lateral flow tests, and then had to sort of, you know, that night, you know, I couldn't sleep. I was just so disappointed, so worried, and just dreading letting the others know. You know, just feeling like I was kind of letting them down. But it was a really horrible thing. So then I had to do the isolation and stay at home. Missed half the tour. And they were being very, very strict about how long, and a bit overly strict in a way. I guess they just didn't want to take any chances, and ended up, you know, missing a lot of the shows. But thankfully, I was able to join the tour in Liverpool, and
great. Well, I'm glad it's working out. I'm just glad. It's lovely to have you. It's been a while, but
please wait.
Sorry. One
last thing. I just want to say big shout out to all of the Sonicstate fans who've come up to you know, shout and wave and come and say hello. Thanks about that.
Excellent. Well, lovely to have you, Gaz. We'll hear more from you a little later. We'll also go over to Mr. Dom Hawken, who is there in his studio, where Dom is, of course, Mr. Wiggly, a.k.a. Mr. Wiggly, mrwiggly.co.uk, where you can buy the fine incinerator and no doubt a huge amount of more products rolling out in the new year sometime, maybe. How are you, Dom? You're muted. Is that me or you? No, it's you. Excellent. That's got to be a first. What an amateur.
Oh my gosh. More practice. Back to the drawing board. Yeah, I was coughing in midst Gaz, so I thought I'll just mute so I don't get in the way of him. I was just going to say, we had a drummer in our first band that got the job because his dad owned a barn we could rehearse in. So being a drummer with a rehearsal studio, you're just going to get every single gig going. But that's not to say he must be an amazing drummer anyway to be working with him. But it's all good. So there is some new stuff coming out in January. That's exactly what's going on. So it's all very, very exciting. But I've got my new Macs arrived. Finally,
what did you go for?
Maxed out Macs, basically.
Right.
So just the whole caboodle, because I've got in the studio, I've got a Pro, the black dustbinny Pro ones, and I remember maxing that out, and it's still going like crazy. So I'm really, really happy with it. So I think if you can afford to buy the top end of the Mac stuff, they last forever.
Yeah.
But my office machine particularly is an old iMac, and was really slowing down, particularly when you're coding. If you hit compile or you're doing stuff, it just takes ages to crunch. And I got to the point where I was compiling code and it was taking about a minute. So every time you make a change and you hit compile, it takes a minute to test. This thing does it in about 3 seconds. It's
a whole minute. I mean,
crazy.
God, I mean, a man as busy as yourself. I mean, that's outrageous.
When you make kind of, 1,000 changes, that's
I know. Understand. It's interesting. No, there was an interesting study. This is a not flip, but about how coding houses were saying it would make more sense for them to buy their entire team, like, whatever, top of the range new M1s, because the compiling was so much faster. It would only take like a year in terms of what they were paying in terms of time for those people to make it back, which is when you start thinking about it, that's particularly for things like video editing and all of that stuff, it starts to make sense.
Indeed, for 3D stuff, it's incredible, because just to open up Unreal Engine took 3 minutes on my iMac, and it's not, it's quite high spec. It's about 8 years old or something, and this is again 20 seconds to open the software. So I can see how that would save fortunes if you're paying someone kind of high rock star programming rates every day. It's crazy.
Well, I hope you're all very happy together. I'm like I say, mine arrived last week, and I've been using it, and it's just been been fine. But I know there are other computer flavors available. We don't mean to bang on about it, but endlessly. But we're happy with our choices. And also we have Mr. Yoad Nevo there from yoadnevo.com in his Nevo Sound Studio, where he's no doubt taken a short break between waxing hotties, as we like to say in the business, old-fashioned record cutting term. How are you, Yoad? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. Good to be here yet again. I didn't think I will have time before the end of the year, but like you said, I'm really busy mixing. Really pleased with the sales of ambient sci-fi for Nexus. Here I had to plug it as well.
Yes.
Really happy with that, and it's quite surprising because it's ambient sci-fi, so you would think that it's kind of a niche thing, but I guess that people, it seems people like it. Which
got the zeitgeist there.
Really happy.
You got your finger on the pulse of what people want. So it's always encouraging.
Yeah, because I think I've managed to, without getting into modular sort of territory, to get into sort of self-evolving patches and stuff like that. There's 181 patches with lots of layers and movements and stuff. So and it seems like people are using it for pop as well, because there are a lot of bass sounds and pads and stuff like that, not only sort of ethereal and stuff like that. So so I'm pleased with that. We had a really good run on Black Friday at Waves, with SSL.
All the graphs are going in the right direction.
Yeah. So I'm quite pleased with that, because everyone thought last year was so sales of plugins was so good because everyone stayed at home and stuff, and we were a bit weary about this year, and luckily the trend kind of continued. So it's really encouraging to see that people use software and plugins and hardware instruments as well.
I think there's I have a theory. Sorry, I'm interrupting. I have a theory about this, and I think it's partly because there are two factors, and I think maybe the first factor is that computing power is getting stronger, so people are less kind of concerned about, it won't run on my machine, because everybody's getting up to a certain level. M1s besides, whatever, they're all pretty capable. But the other thing is, all of this stuff, all the hardware it's just not materializing because of supply issues, whereas software doesn't suffer from those same constraints. So where people might have been saying, I'm waiting for X or Y to ship, they kind of go, well, actually, I'll get this, because as we all know, buying new equipment makes our creative output way better. So that's just the way it works. So
yeah, it's true, and I'm waiting on the next kind of batch of Mac hardware as well, planned for next year. I don't know if it's rumors or if it's official. It's hard to tell within all the YouTube kind of activity going on, but it seems like there's going to be a new Mac Pro, which is really interesting. However, it seems like it's not going to be an M2. I've been using the M1, the now old M1 for the past year or so, and it's quite good, and it's quite surprising, and it's not generating any heat, and it's very quiet. But I am maxing it out.
Yeah, we did that,
especially when
Atmos stuff, when we were doing the screen capture as well. It just wasn't having it, was it?
Yeah. But also I use a lot of harmonic enhancing, if you like, plugins across all the channels, because I'm now not using the desk for mixing or even for summing, just for recording and sometimes processing stuff, specific tracks. But I'm using a lot of stuff like NLS and analog box, I think, by Brainworx, which is really good.
So that's the sort of saturation and distortion kind of stuff that kind of adds that analog console feel.
And when you have it across like 100 or 120 tracks on top of everything else, it kind of adds up. And my poor M1 is really struggling with that. So I'm waiting for the new one. But when you buy a Mac or when you buy any computer, but especially with Macs, I think you want it to last for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something like that. Yeah. So I think I'll be waiting for the
big
Mac
one.
Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the big one, which is supposed to have like 40 cores or something crazy like that.
I think they will make a big,
or whatever.
I think they'll make a big statement about that because it makes perfect sense. I mean, if they can, they will. Anyway, we should probably move on just a little. I mean, it's not a Mac focused thing, but it's this. I won't apologise for the nature of it because as we know, these move forwards in CPU and system on a chip technology has really kind of elevated what people have come to expect from kind of relatively affordable machines, and it's
Nick,
quite a big jump. Yes.
Nick, can I just cut in a minute? I've just got the guilt. I've got guilty feelings. When I called out all the musicians who I'm on tour with, I didn't mention Jambo, our sound man, because we are just a team, and Jambo's just been doing an amazing job. And I've been sitting there thinking, he's amazing.
No.
So there we go. Thank
you. There you go.
Just,
job done. That's all right. That's totally fair enough. Yeah, you can rest easy now, Gaz. Okay, well, let's get on to our first topic. Now, this kind of follows. There seems to be a bass theme running through our stuff at the moment. I'm better to make sure that. So yeah, this is
10 years
504.
ago, I made my first YouTube video, and today we just reached 10 million subs. Thank you. Slappers! Whether you have been following me since my first video, or you discovered my very impressive challenges, or the Bass Around the World series, or just from being bold, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Actually, let me know in the comments, when did you discover my channel? I'm curious.
He's great. This Davey 504 bass. Just does bass. He describes himself as an Italian guy who wants to share his passion for slapping the bass. And I can't believe that he's got 10 million subs. I mean, that is amazing. And that's in only a matter of a couple of years. I mean, it's really impressive. And it sort of makes you feel like I don't know what I just didn't think there were that many people in the world who'd be interested in that. It just seems like it's a really good news story, and I know it might not be everybody's a cup of tea, but he's very dry and very humorous. He's a really good comedian, apart from anything else, and he does some really good, and he's an absolutely wicked bass player in terms of on the slap as well. Very good. I'm going to have to come to you first, Gaz, because you have a bass in your hand.
Oh yes. Well, I mean, the thing about Davey, which is his real big strong point is he's just.
Oh, there he goes.
Cut away! I can't believe that's just happened.
He's always so prepared and professional.
What was I saying? All right.
I'll tell you what. You carry on talking and move your camera at the same time. What a brilliant moment. That is totally awesome. Totally awesome, Davey. What I'll do is I'll pop the screen up there because then I've got my shot here. This is Davey 504. I don't know how many videos he's got, but yeah, 10 million subs is very impressive, and he's been pushing these. He does bass around the world, which are really good, like finding the best bassist in Japan or India or China or whatever. And he's very, he's very dry and irreverent. I could see Gaz is starting to move his camera almost into place. I can stop pedaling in a fairly short. Actually, we could go to. I've got this other shot here, which gives us all of us, so you can see where Gaz is and me. Well worth checking out, even if you're not a bass player and don't like bass. They're just they're musically humorous, which is. There aren't many, apart from Les Dawson and maybe Tim Minchin, who's retired from musical comedy, that I can think of that are sort of musically humorous. Tales of Hoffman. I mean, it's
Bill Bailey.
Bill Bailey, of course. There's another one. That's a good shout. I think Gaz is still doing that. Dom, have you seen any of his videos?
Yeah. I don't want to steal Gaz's thunder in the slightest because he's just the world's best bass player and renowned expert on bass playing. But I think what's wonderful about this is it's a crossover. There may be 10 million absolute bass fanatics out there watching his stream, but I don't think
unlikely. So. Yeah,
it's crossed over into being just a really, really good, entertaining videos to watch. Like you were saying, even if you're not into bass and you don't like bass playing, it's an entertaining view, and I think that's brilliant. And he's obviously, so I think the best YouTubers find stuff by accident. They play themselves or they are themselves. It just comes across the enthusiasm, and occasionally like this, it just clicks with a whole bunch of people who just go, that last video is really entertaining. I'll watch this one. So it's wonderful. And I've been getting, I wouldn't say I've been getting annoyed, but there's a lot of musical YouTube videos out there from people who don't actually make music, which is fine. But when you're putting yourself out there to say, you know, here's an amazing synth and I'll tell you about, and we'll take you through it and all the rest of it. You kind of need, in my opinion, to qualify it by going and put some music out there, you know, even if it's a jam or if it's some releases or whatever. There's plenty of people who do, but I think this qualifies that. You know, he's a great player, he knows his stuff about bass, and he does bass. He's not telling me which drum machine to buy, and he's not done this enormous sort of another musical based YouTube kind of influencer thing. He just knows what he does, and he does it well, and I think that's brilliant. And the more people who can do this, Gaz is another classic example, funny enough, of this. You know, knows the stuff that he's doing. He's an epic bass player, and he plays. You know, and people just watch YouTube to see Gaz basically kind of jamming and going off into Gaz world with these amazing sounds, and I absolutely love that. So I think he's ready. I think he's
excellent.
He's lost in his phone, but here we go.
I think here he comes. Gaz, it's working again.
Flaccid magic arm.
They're the worst.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what's gone wrong with it, but anyway, I've been out of the game too long. Yeah, sorry about that, everyone.
He's very scripted. I mean, Davey's very scripted and very highly edited, but it still works really well. And I'm assuming English isn't his first language as well, so it's even more impressive, to be honest.
The thing to remember about Davey is that Davey was just making videos, just slapping videos with no talking, and he didn't, this kind of spoken persona of his is kind of, is a later development. And I think he probably did a voice reveal, I think, after so many subs. So this kind of character, this Davey 504 character, has sort of come into being over a number of years. I've followed him for quite a long time because he typically used to make videos about, slapping on, mega multi-string basses, or just maybe doing it on one string or whatever like that. But like my wife, for instance, she loves him. She's not at all interested in sort of bass player particularly, but his personality, his charisma, and is just he's funny. You're right, he's a comedian. He's funny. But of course, there's always new kids on the block, and there's a British guy, Charles Berthaud, who's, he's nowhere near the amount of subscribers as Davey, but as a bass player, Berthaud, Bearthoud, I think, Charles, is the most astonishing bass player I have ever seen. He's a YouTuber. I don't know how he would actually fare on stage and out in the big bad world, but his bass playing, sad to say, Davey, Charles has kind of left him in the dust a little bit.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I know. But Charles tries and copies Davey's style a little bit, but he just doesn't. He just hasn't got the kind of charisma. He's not as funny as Davey, so I think Davey will ultimately triumph.
Great stuff, though. It's brilliant to have. Yoad, I don't know. I know you have said in the past that you've. I've seen the guitars that prove you might have shredded at some point in your previous musical career, and you may still do it in your own time. Probably not so much on the records that you do these days. Not much call for it, but this is. It's great to see this guy. A kind of virtuoso. I don't know how virtuoso is, but a great player getting such a kind of big accolades. It's great. He must make a decent amount of money on his videos as well, which is great.
Yeah, I think it's always great to see someone who's kind of down to earth and quite modest and not making a big deal out of himself, turning his YouTubing into his basically livelihood and making money, and I hope that he does, and I'm sure he does with 10 million subs. I don't know how you obviously know about it much more than I do, but it's nice to see that, and I like people like that, and on the topic of guitars, I really enjoy watching Woodford guitar repairs. He's a Canadian dude who is amazing. He's a true artist, and he's also very kind of modest and relaxed, and I learned so much from him about repairing and setting up guitars and stuff.
Wow.
And so yeah, there's so much stuff on YouTube that sometimes there's not enough time to watch it all, because there's so much good stuff there.
That's what
Not
isn't
to
that what
mention
that's what
all the-
TikTok's for, isn't it? That's why you watch
Yeah,
shorts.
but that's a
Short attention span stuff. Yeah.
No, I'm more into like longer stuff, but a lot of the stuff I watch is not even music related. It's about astrophysics and evolution and stuff like that. But proper kind of lectures and yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing and. But sometimes, or not sometimes, you know, I have to also work and stuff. But sometimes I stay late, and knowing that I have to get some sleep in order to get up in the morning and do the wave stuff and mixing and all that. But there's so much good stuff out there to watch. Yeah. I think we're really lucky. If you imagine, or you don't have to imagine, because we can all remember 20 or even 30 years ago when there was no YouTube. And you have to buy magazines.
No niche programming. Exactly. It's changed, hasn't it? The way we consume it. Yeah,
it's massively.
Brilliant. Yeah,
massively.
Absolutely, and it's just good that that's even available. We should be thankful. And good luck to Davey. I've never met him, but I would like to.
Brilliant.
I'm sure he's a top chap. Right, okay. I'm just going to bring in a little bit of a message from Isotope, because they've still got their subscriptions going, and they're still sales going
Isotope
on.
Producers
So,
Club is a
do check this out.
membership for producers ready to take their tracks to the next level. Once you join, you'll gain access to powerhouse Isotope plugins and a curated selection of tools from our partners, such as Melodyne from Celemony. Plus, as long as you're a member, you'll get every future update to the Isotope plugins in your membership for no extra cost. We'll also regularly serve you new curated content like exclusive inspiration-sparking sample packs and preset packs, and industry-leading training ranging from our own tutorials to vocal production lessons from the world-renowned Berklee Online, taught by Grammy-winning producer and engineer Prince Charles Alexander. With new content being added every month full of valuable production techniques, tips and tricks, and solutions to common production problems, becoming a member is an investment in your career that grows as you and your career do. For more information on Isotope Producers Club, head to isotope.com.
In fact, if you head to isotope.com/Sonictalk, you will get a special landing pages that they've created. And if there's no longer the information there, but if you use the code Sonic 10 at checkout, not on subscriptions or hardware, but even on the sales that are happening, you can save yourself an extra 10% on anything you might choose to buy. And that's a little tip, that a little bit of discount. So we thank Isotope for their support of the show. They've been very long-term supporters. And I suppose at this time of year, we should say thank you to our supporters, our panelists, our viewers, all the people that have kind of helped keep this going and make it work behind the scenes and in front of the camera, behind the camera, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, right, so what have we got next? I think I might go, I was wondering where to go next, and I think I might go here, because it sort of ties in with the whole notion of how to get a perfect mix, and I suspect that you might have something to say on this. Let me see if I can find my chapters don't seem to be working. There seems to be a slow thing on the cloud, but this is a Pro Tools expert article by a chap called Don Morley, who's sort of saying there is no such thing as a perfect mix, and I'm sure that some of you, our panelists, will have something to say on that, because many of them mix, in fact. But I'm very much of the subscription that a mix is never finished. It's just you stop doing it because you meet the deadline, because you can always tweak. And I think the thing is, given an unlimited amount of time, you will always continue to tweak it. So it's almost, you sort of need those rules to be able to get to a specific point, because you have to sort of, the cadence of when you finished and when your best work goes in is sort of in some ways important to it, to work to a deadline. Now, Yoad, I'm going to come to, well, that's not Yoad, I'm going to come to you, Yoad, first, because you do this all the time, and presumably I know you like to work fast, you know, your all of your kind of workflow and automation and, you know, remote control stuff is designed to make you be able to do this quickly. So how would you describe, I mean, do you feel like sometimes, because I mean, you're working for clients, right? So you might say this is about as good as the mix is ever going to get, and then they might come back with a, yeah, but A, B, C, D, you know, whatever notes. How do you do you often kind of find that you're there, or do you just kind of go, that's as good as it's going to get given the time?
I look at a mix as a performance. So I try to maintain sort of a live or sort of a creative burst or energy and all these nice words, you know, within a mix. So you can mix, and I've been mixing albums. I think the longest I did was mixing an album in 6 weeks, lockout in the studio every day, 14 hours or 16 hours. And stuff like that. I've been in the 90s. I've been involved with quite a few albums like that. And also the method that, you know, before mixing in the box and all that, we had like a day and a half or 2 days or something like that in most cases to mix a track. And then you had to just let it go and start a new mix, because you had 10 days to mix an album or something like that, or 2 weeks or something like that, which was normal. And if you want to do recalls, it was a nightmare and took hours and never sounded the same and stuff like that. These days, with the technology, when everything is recallable and you just load it up, I'm actually utilizing this in order to maintain the creativity and the focus. So I would mix. Luckily, I have my assistants and my you know, engineers who prepare the mix for me and do all the edits and the mix prep and stuff like that. So I get to do just the fun stuff. So everything is labeled and everything is colored and edited and with fades and stuff. So I just give it kind of a burst of energy for a couple of hours. Then I would let it go, move on to something else, come back to it the next day, listen in the car, listen on the phone. A lot of the time I spend on a mix is not at the desk, is actually on headphones and in other environments, just trying to you know, benefit from the fact that you don't have to sit at the desk, because sometimes you can, like I said, you can do it too much. You can kind of commit to death, basically. If you make it more smooth and more smooth and more smooth, and then it loses it may be perfect, but it's you know. So I'm trying to maintain a live feel to it. I think there's a video I did for Sound Better years ago when they started, when I did a mix in 10 minutes. I think it was 2.5 passes. It's like a GoPro, when I have a few GoPros on me, so you can see the mixer perspective on an SSL desk. And there's something about that, and I used to do live sound as well. There's something about that. It's a performance, and that's what I try to maintain, even while sitting, you know, looking at the screen with the mouse in my hand. I'm trying to maintain this element because I think it comes across in the mix. The something about the energy and all that does come across.
That's interesting what you're saying about all the prep and stuff, because I mean that, you know, that IT is the tedious business. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to just kind of narrow it down to the so you can.
But it's super important.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Super important, and this is something I always stress on my videos and my masterclasses and stuff like that. That mix prep is 50% of the thing. When you have everything in time and you don't have to worry about clicks or fades or noises and stuff like that, then it leads to creativity. Because if your vocal is properly edited, and this is what I tell my assistants, I want every track to sound ready to be on a sample library. You know, it has to be perfect, because then you have more artistic freedom, because you can compress the vocals 40 dB or something like that if you want to, and you don't have to worry about like it pumping kind of noise at the ends of words and stuff like that, or you have like double T's or double S's from the backing vocals, you know, and all that. So it's super important, not to mention the timing. sometimes with electronic, with programmed stuff, the samples that people used are not entirely, edited. So
Yeah.
if you put everything in time and move it so it's like sample accurate and all that, there's so much clarity before you even touched an EQ or a compressor. So it just sounds, the material you dealing with is already kind of the best it can be, and then you can really work quickly and mix.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Gaz, I saw you nodding a lot there. I'm guessing. I'm just saying, you look a little bit. Oh no, that's all right. It was the angle of your head. I was just worried that your camera was off again. But yeah, some wise words there. I mean, I think, prepping, because I've been in that situation where I've spent a load of time mixing and trying to get, I can't, I'm trying to get rid of the spill or the bleed or whatever before, so I can do something to a track that I couldn't, so.
Yeah. It's really frustrating when what is supposedly a mix job, but you end up spending, like days maybe editing, And I think sometimes that editing aspect, because if you bring the levels up to where you want them to be and they're not edited correctly, like there's out of time playing, there's out of tune vocals or whatever, and what you typically do is tuck things back in the mix if they don't sound great. And then you end up with that kind of bland, mixing. I've always been a real big believer of that, positive mixing, where all of the elements that you want are really forward in the mix, and and they can only be in that position if they are, kind of correct in terms of the editing. So often mix budgets don't include the time for editing and mix prepping. And another thing as well, sometimes I get mix jobs in, and it's just so many little fragments and little bits and tracks, and it just takes ages just to
I'm just thinking of a Gold Trap multi-track right now.
So I spend quite a lot of time just colorizing and putting into sort of folder, making lots of folder tracks. And what I typically like to do with a mixer is just create 8 group tracks, and I've done this for years and years and years, where I've got like a drum group, a bass group, a guitar group, a keyboard group, or maybe 2 guitar groups, a keyboard group, a backing vocal group, and a lead vocal group, or something like that, along those kind of lines. And there's usually a few little anomalies, but I'd find a home for them. So I've just made an 8-channel version of the mix, so I can have a very quick control over the mix, over the overall mix. That really works for me. But I mean, typically then I'm going into the tracks and applying lots of automation and whatnot. But there's certain things that were old techniques that I've quite often referred back to when trying to chase what is a perfect mix, such as bringing the volume to as quiet as it can possibly be, and the only elements you should still be able to make out all of the vocals lyrics, all of the lyrics at the quietest point, and the only other element you should be able to hear at that level is maybe the snare drum. I mean, I don't know quite how true all of that always is, but that's something that I sometimes refer back to. It's quite handy, but I mean, certainly the one about being able to hear all of the lyrics, I think that's kind of a very key thing at that tiny tiny level. But I mean, in terms of actually, the perfect mix, there's a million billion possible mixes, and out of that million billion, there's probably a fair few billion perfect mixes. So there's no single one mix. And of course, tastes vary quite a lot. I like quite a bass driven mix for obvious reasons. Although I typically mix my own performances a little bit quiet, and that's quite often the case, I think, with people who've put their own, laid their own parts on. You tend to sort of push them back a little bit to put the other people forward. But the other thing that I like to do with mixes is try to reduce the clutter and find the space, And I remember this one mix job that I was doing for this band. They sent me these tracks, and the rhythm guitarist was dreadful, really dreadful, and I was trying to get mix working, and it's just always sounding terrible. And then I just tried muting that guitarist, and suddenly there the mix was. Oh yes. So
hard sell though, I'd imagine.
I know. I sent the band a mix where they saw the guitar is just removed, and they went, "What have you done with this guitar? Where is it?" I said, "Well, I think it's from there." Without, "Oh no, man, it's missing this, that, and the other." I say, "Oh right, okay, yeah, it's missing the crap. I'll put the crap back in for you, But I mean, so that's where there's a certain amount of politics that you have to adhere to. That's not to do with actually what makes the mix better. But it's a shame sometimes because the mixes, I could mix that music once that guitar was out, So
interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, it is, deadlines are crucial, really, because, I call it the realm of the infinite adjustability. Because there's just ridiculous amounts of variables available to you. So as I mentioned earlier, by making this like submix of just 8 stereo groups and using that mostly, and lots of automation of those group tracks. It is a big thing for me, but also just volume automations in general. I try to use as little processing and plugins as possible, and use just volume automations in place of maybe heavy compression and
right.
But yeah, another classic thing. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. If you're working, say, with acoustic drums, and you spend ages gating everything, compressing everything, and then you just turn off all the processing, and then the drums sound great again. It's like, oh no, that sort of over-processing.
It's a real fine art.
The last point I'll make, though, is one thing I do like to do is when I think everything is kind of right, or roughly, say, we're about to move on to the next song or whatever. What I like to do is I like to run off the mix, not listen to, we've been working on it, but rather than playing that mix back in the project, I like to create a mix down and then listen to that mix down, and I'll name the project and the mix down the same, and then I'll advance the name of the mix and the project for subsequent iterations. But I don't know, I mean, maybe Yoad might be able to sort of clarify this to me, but when you render off a mix and you render in it and it's got everything baked in, all the automations or any plugins that you're using, and then you listen to it as a sort of stereo mix down, I mean, for me, I always feel it's great you've managed to sort of extract the mix out of the project so it exists sort of independently of the project. But I just wonder whether that's the best way to listen to the mix, because then there's no vagaries regarding kind of plugin. I don't know. But for me, it seems to be like a solid. I like to listen to it independently, and then I can assess that mix. And as I say, if I go back and then make adjustments, I'll do exactly the same process, but increment the name so they always. And then if I go back and listen to earlier mixes, I can go back and get the parts that I want from whichever iteration.
So, Dom. It's interesting, isn't it? Because you songwrite as well, and sometimes when there's songwriting or creating at the same time, the mix is almost sort of happening in real time. For many of us, it's not possible to separate the two things, and I think maybe that's part of the issue.
Even more now than when my most successful songs were happening. That's very true. The definition of mixing and producing has changed, because everyone's a producer these days that's making music somehow, and everyone I know who may be semi-pro or they're working really hard at their music, they might be doing it at home. They definitely see the value in sending their final version off for mastering. That's definitely a thing you do, mainly because I guess to get it sounding good on Spotify and everything, it's seen as a technical rather than a creative process. It's almost like, well, my mix is brilliant, so you just need to make sure it works on all the outlets. But very few of them consider sending the mixes that they're doing out to independent mixers, and if you want to hear the difference and the creativity that a good mixer, I mean, honestly, I truly believe Yoad is one of the best mixers in the world, if not the best mixer in the world at the moment, from what I've heard him doing. But have a listen to what he does. No, I'm serious. If you listen to what he did on the Sonicstate track that he produced, and just watched half an hour of that video about the creative stuff that he used on the plugins and how the sounds changed and how the source sounds were good and simple, but it was incredible, and it will just introduce you to the idea that if you send 16 tracks of audio to this man, or 128 tracks, make him work for his money. Mixers do an incredible job, but they're almost like a record label thing nowadays, like they used to be. So coming back to what I was saying, I don't think there's a perfect mix in terms of being lovely. There's a perfect mix for a song, which is often viewed as the imperfect mix, when everything's just 99 Problems by Jay-Z. I mean, that's just slamming and probably not what you do as a perfect mix, but it works and it rips the speakers off. But yeah, as a songwriter, from a songwriter's point of view, I mean, it's interesting because I wrote Stay Another Day with a couple of other guys, and we demoed it. And on the demo, I had drums all over it. And we actually demoed 10 songs in 10 days. And I think about 8 or 9 ended up on the album because it was really rushed. And quite a lot of the time, actually, the fundamentals of a lot of the stuff we put on the demos ended up on the final tracks, either as the original sounds and replay. They went to the producers. So we handed them over to Ian Kerno and Phil Harding, who are amazing producers. One's basically a keyboard player, the other's a mixer. So they work.
They used to work for PWL, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They were the bunker downstairs from PWL. Really, really super duper guys to work with as well, And so they took it and they kind of polished it, which is perfect for me because I hate that polishing thing. For finishing stuff, it's hard, So they were given these what actually turned out to be great demos, and embellished them and got sometimes used the same vocals, sometimes whatever. But anyway, Stay Another Day had drums all over it, and they realised it was a good single. They realized it stood the chance of doing well. It was a nice song and everything. And then they spent literally 2 weeks mixing this thing and it wouldn't work. And then one night, I kind of wandered in and they just said, "Oh, sod this. We just can't get it right. Lay a pass down without the drums. We'll use it as a pass on the B-side. We'll come back and carry on in the morning." And when they came back on in the morning, they listened to it without the drums and they went, "That's it. That is the mix." So it was an afterthought. That was the perfect mix.
Wow.
It's one of those. I don't think you ever know it's a perfect mix or a mix that you could not make better without hindsight. So therefore, It's kind of pointless spending days and days and days mixing something to perfection because you're still going to come back in a week's time. You may not have a week to get it right and go. Yeah, you might go yes, you might get it, but you don't stand any chance of knowing. And in my experience, the faster you can push it together, the more spontaneous and exciting it sounds. And the longer I spend, the more I should probably be going back and replacing some of the original sounds because I'm working to polish something that should probably have been better in the first place. But I would recommend, as a result of all this, because we're all a bit old school. We all had, labels and whatever, and we'd record something and they'd go off to a mixer and then they'd go off to be mastered and the A&R man would run the whole project and everything. Investigate, getting your tracks out to be independently mixed because, guys will definitely bring something to the party. They'll also bring objectivity in and you get objectivity by listening to what comes back. And it'll also, force
sounds
you
like
to,
eBay.
It's the mix police.
Amazon.
It'll also kind of force you to finish stuff as well because
it's another deadline. It's an
mixing,
imposed deadline. Yeah,
if you're mixing as you go along, you never quite know when to stop because you can go back and change the drums and then you carry on mixing and then you go back. So there's another thing to finish. So you got to draw a line over your recorded stuff, your stuff in the computer, and switch to mixing, and then send it to Yoad. I don't know how expensive Yoad is, but it's worth saving up.
Thank you, Dom. I'll pay you later.
Wise word.
You'll get your cut later.
Or maybe just a mix, eh? Hey. Right. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for all of that. That's very insightful. I think we've got time for maybe one more, and I'll throw this in there because I think this is just, it's free, so why the heck not? And I think if I press that button, here we go. Dom Segalis there. This is the Steinberg Lof-fi piano freebie. It does sound nice. The link seemed to be working again. Go, Dom. Yeah, this is a free one from Steinberg. It actually is free. It works on Hallion Player, and I did write some facts and figures. Hallion SE it'll work on. Basically, you just need to get over to Steinberg and and I get it, and it'll work in most DAWs. I think I thought I had. Let me just bring this. See if I can bring the window up. Lo-fi piano. Yeah, I don't know how big it is, but there were some nice sounds in there, and it's always nice to have free. And as we know, pianos are very objective things, and it's that one just seemed to sit quite nicely in there. It has a sort of vibe to it. I think. I don't know who has anything to say about this. I mean, there are some number of things with Steinberg that are going on behind the scenes as well. But well, you're a big Cubase user. Would you be? You've probably already got an account. You just need to go and click, and it'll be there. And you
I should. Yeah. Yeah, I think this looks good. I mean, Dom Sigalis, though, is one of the most joyful, beautiful people I've ever met. He is every bit as positive and as radiant as he is on his videos, and fantastic musician too. Anyway, that's enough about that. But this is using the Halion thing. Now, something to bear in mind, I think, which when we did the review of it, Nick, one thing that you were really into, wasn't it? The fact that if you use Halion, you can export your own libraries. Do you remember?
Yes, you can create your own freebies. Yeah,
you can create your own freebies, distributable. Yeah, so which is a really powerful feature. But I mean, beyond that, I don't really know. I haven't really had time to look at this or check this out, but I definitely will grab it. As you say, I mean, pianos are one of the most, such a variable thing. And I've always been a big fan of piano tech. I love piano tech, but other people not so keen on that. And so, yeah, I think it is a very subjective thing, pianos.
There we go.
This looks good.
Yeah, Lof-fi. It's based on an upright acoustic piano that was recorded with carefully selected vintage microphone. So, all as it should be. Dom,
how big is it?
I couldn't find that information because I wasn't able to download it. So I don't know, but I'm guessing. I can't. It doesn't say in the specs. Need another piano, Dom? I mean, because we got the Spitfire, the Spitfire soft piano, which is particularly lovely. That's free, but this is.
I like the tacky, not the tacky, the sort of tack piano. I can always forget its name, but it's like an Ivory's one. I'll dig it out while you're talking to someone else. We reviewed it a while back, and it's really, really cool. It's got sort of particles in there, and it's a very famous piano. And then they stuck pins in it.
Oh, is that the Nils Fram one? Is that the Nils Fram?
That's the one. Yeah, absolutely. I really love that one. This sounds great. I'm not sure I'll ever tire of lo-fi sounds, to be honest. I mean, the dubstep wubba wubba had a shelf life that didn't last that long, but I'm still happily listening to dubstep sounds like that, not to lo-fi sounds like that. And it sounds really nice. It sounds like you should have to buy it. It doesn't sound like a free thing, which is kind of the best thing I can describe it as. It's a no-brainer. Get it and give it a go. It just has a very nice, warm, pleasing, relaxing kind of sound to it. So I can't fault it. And it's free. Incredible.
Lo-fi is easier to mix because you don't have to do any cutting.
Well, exactly. Yeah, maybe not send this one to Yoad. Wait for a different one.
Yoad, you got enough pianos in your life? Even for a free, we've got enough disk space for any more pianos in your life?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. It sounds great, but I mean, there's so many kind of lo-fi plugins around, or even tape plugins, which you can throw on top of any piano sound, and it will have the sort of wobble and the noise and all that. But obviously, it's nice when you have it as a one thing, and it already has all the elements. XO's XO, what are they called? RC20, that lo-fi plugin is really, really nice. I really like it, and you can get very similar results with just that, as well as
there's no excuse, is there, really? Because you could just recall a channel strip in most DAWs, so just build it and then recall it. I suppose that's a fair point.
Yeah, but obviously there's something cool and easy and convenient about having it already done for you, and it seems like a lot of the plugins and also a lot of the stuff we do at Waves and Dom's Incinerator, which is also something that I really recommend, because it's you just put it on stuff and it sounds no, really. I mean, you just want stuff which is kind of rough and ready. You know, this is what everything seems to be all about these days, and we at Waves are in that trend as well. So I think it's also nice to see Steinberg, which are always in my mind from the early days of Cubase and all that, seem to be very sort of slick and German and clean, you know, to come up with lo-fi sort of vibe. It's nice to see that, and it's nice to see that there's a trend, and like I mentioned before, you know, all the distortion and harmonic distortion plugins that you throw over a mix to make it seem less digital and less sort of sterile and clean and all that. It's nice because it brings back some vibe to the music. And the fact that you have all these ready to go sounds that people don't have to really, because not many people are very experienced, and not many people come from the era of tapes and
that's true.
and vinyl and all that. So yeah, so it's nice to get those sounds ready to go.
Absolutely. Shout out there from Piano Book, pianobook.co.uk, which is also mentioned. There's a lot of free stuff on there that uses Contact, or also a decent sampler, which is another great thing to use. Although it's not as you can't do as much as complex things with decent sampler with onboard effects. But we've posted a few sample packs on our Patreon. There we go. I get to make a plug for that as well while I'm at it. There we go. I'll just put that up there now. Patreon.com. I did a couple. There's some ones on there that you can check out. Okay, right. Well, it's been fascinating discussion. So we haven't got through as many topics as I've got listed, but I think it's important that we do our picks, because we're getting towards the end of the year. For those who perhaps don't remember, we've got the quiz next week. This is now really coming together. I'm pretty excited about this because I've got 10 questions from YouTubers and musicians for one round, and we've got four other rounds, and all the technology is there. I've managed to figure out all the buttons. So next week, the 22nd, is our third. I think it's the third Sonic quiz, and this time I think it's going to be even better. So what we're talking about now is kind of panel picks. As we get towards the end of the year, you know, there are a number of we've had a chance to think about what's been out there, and I just wanted to throw a few suggestions out to the panelists. So Dom, I think your pick was interesting. You've gone for two picks. The first one, let me just see if I can find it here. I must remember not to look up a Geek pick, which is the Unreal Engine, which I think I've got that here, which is the sort of 3D modelling and whatnot.
This is an odd one, and it's really come into its own with the new Mac, actually, because this is one of the things that was really taxing my old one, and it's not necessarily musical, but Unreal Engine 5, which is a pre-release at the moment, it's not live, but you can download it for free, is truly incredible in terms of it has inbuilt into it a synth audio engine where you can literally build whatever you want. You can pull in a square wave oscillator and a bunch of filters and build a synthesizer. Last night I built a 909 drum machine in it just by importing some samples. It's got sample accurate playback. You can just set a timer off, adjust the tempo, add some distortion plugins, whatever you want. It is quite incredible, and it literally took an evening, and it's all drag and drop, no coding. You can code it and see if you want to, but it's just dragging wires between.
Yeah, look, really complicated for what's impressive, but
yeah, I mean, and honestly, it's not. You can make a synth by dragging kind of 6 things on. And the point with this is you can have that synth on the screen and play it, but you could also drop it into a virtual world and then have things change by waving your phone or your hands or walking towards it in a game or whatever. And I think I've seen the virtual reality 3D world future of music. They've really taken it and run with it. And it's, even if you just use the audio bit of it, it's an incredible thing and a great introduction to being able to use that stuff. So an amazing bit of software. So that's my Geek pick. It's completely free as well. You can even sell stuff with it, and you have to sell quite a lot before they even start charging you a royalty on it. So definitely worth a download.
Interesting.
Unreal Engine by
and your second pick is the Behringer ARP 2600.
It's the BARP.
BARP.
Which I had my name down for a Korg remake, and they'd sold out by the time they got to me. I'd love to own an original. I used Vince Clarke's for a while, actually, in his studio. So I know and love them, but I had to make myself... I wanted it before the small version of the Korg came out. And so I got one of these, and I'm blown away by the quality and the price and the sounds that come out of it. And to be honest, aside from the fact it's monophonic, so you're going to have a job playing chords on it. It's
you
just
get duo out of it, I'd imagine.
You can get two sounds out of it, but and then you can I've layered it down into Logic and recorded it to make chords out of it. But yeah, let me learn synthesis. It's perfect. You can make entire tracks from it. You can make amazing sounding kick drums, and really, this is the ARP. This is not necessarily the Behringer version, but it's just a brilliant synth. So, and actually, back with Vince Clarke, he used to use it to make almost all the sounds on your Zoo tracks. So he'd put the kick drum, then you'd make a hi hat on it and put that down. Then you make a snare and put that down. It's incredible to watch. And this thing you can do it. And there's a couple of YouTube vids I've made of kind of a song with just this, how to make a kick drum and all that. So, from a learning experience to an incredibly useful synth and amazing sounding tool, they're brilliant, and I'm really pleased that they are affordable.
Yeah, 500 quid.
Yeah, I've got it on good authority from someone who knows that an original sounds better than the Korg, sounds better than the Behringer, and it goes in price order. But I would never notice, the difference in terms of when I'm making a track on it. So if you're looking for a new synth and perhaps you haven't considered it, it's just a brilliant thing. Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much for that.
So,
Gaz, you did a couple, didn't you? But the one I went for, just purely because it was this year, was the RC505 Mark II.
Yeah, I mean, I put an order in for one. I haven't got one yet, but I'm getting one. The 505 Mark I, as I've made abundantly clear on many, many occasions, is one of my absolute all-time favorite pieces of music tech gear. And I thought it was almost perfect, and there was a few things that I wanted it to do, and the Mark II has done them. I did one of my live, I think the last live stream I did a number of weeks ago, I kind of speculated about the Mark II. I didn't have the access to the information at the time, and it didn't appear that it was an audio interface, but yes, it is an audio interface, and even better than that, it's got two types of audio interface in the new one. You can use it with a driver, and that opens up all of it as a quite a lot of input and output channels, or you can use it as a class compliant stereo in, stereo out as an audio interface. Now, I didn't know that at the time. I think that is fantastic. The old Mark I would function as an audio interface, but you'd need the driver for it.
Right.
So that's a really cool thing. Also, another of the features that I didn't know that you could do. I mean, all of this is in your review, I hasten to add, and that's where I learned it from. You can do bounce downs on it. So
yeah, that's a big deal. I think that's a
big deal. Yeah.
And if the thing that's cool about that is if you do bounce downs and then you've got the mark and the undo, you could actually create some really interesting kind of complete sections and replace them and stuff. If you had a brain able to cope with the complexity of putting that together.
But I mean, because obviously they've got the RC600, which is the
floor
pedal version, and they're very, very similar. They've got the same menu system, and this is the interesting thing now. When the Mark I came out, it had some serious limitations to what you could do over MIDI and over the foot switching, because they tried to sort of make it so you couldn't. So if you wanted to use a floor-based looper, you should buy the floor-based one, and this was a desktop one. But now the MIDI implementation on both units, I mean, so if you want to use if you want to use this desktop one and have it with, like, say, a Nectar Pacer pedal, as an example, MIDI pedal, or the other way around, get the 600 and then have some MIDI controller on the desktop, then, they've seen sense, and both workflows are perfect.
Yeah, the level of customization is kind of insane. It's a little. You look at it and just go, actually, that's too much, but really useful to fit the workflow that you might want. It's
right.
Exactly.
So when the 505 first came out, I thought, oh my goodness, it was marketed heavily as a beatboxer looper, but I was thinking about it as something for capturing desktop performances or modular performances, and being able to sort of just build instant sort of tracks on the fly, and this Mark II really does increase that facility and, that purpose. And excellent work, I think, Roland Boss, for what they've done with this. They've taken what was excellent about the original,
and they didn't mess it up.
Didn't mess it up. No. So that's my pick. Yeah.
Good call. Yoad, I know I didn't hear anything from you. I don't know whether you've got anything that you were particularly enamored from this year.
I want to mention Brainworx guitar amp simulations because they're so good. I was just became aware of them this year. That's why I thought it was worth mentioning, even though I think that some of them were probably released this year, but some of them are older. They sound great. They sound really good to play. With amp simulations, it's all about how it makes you feel when you play. It's like a guitar amp. You either connect to it or not. And I find that they sound. So it just makes you want to play, and they really carry the sort of the difference between the different guitars. It's not. It doesn't all sound like one thing. Sometimes with amp simulators, it all has a certain sound, but with they have quite a few modeling amps. And they just sound great. I do have some criticism. I mean, it sounds like that they use kind of low bit rate. So when you try to lower the gain input in order to get, a lot of them are kind of leaning towards high gain, and a lot of high gain modeling of real amps are used. But what I like to do is to bring the gain right down, so to basically use them as clean or sort of crunch sounds, and then you get a lot of quantization noise and sort of nastiness. But other than that, they sound really good, and the cabinets they use are really nice. From my analysis, it's they are kind of synthesized cabinet IRs rather than recorded, just by analyzing the frequency response and other elements. But they do sound great. So I really enjoy playing through them at the moment.
Excellent.
Yeah, really love them.
I managed to get the link stuck in the spreadsheet, so it got posted out to the YouTube. The YouTube comments thing has been a bit patchy today. I think there's cloud issues, so hopefully it'll all be in the show notes, all of this stuff. My pick was oh no, that's my pick. I'm just trying to find it out. Where's my pick? I picked the IK Multimedia Uno Synth Pro. And the reason I did that, because I came back to it the other day and was just sort of really loving the way it sounded. I had a friend came over because I had the Polybrute here because I did the video with with Sebastian for the new Polybrute firmware, which was a big deal. And I said, oh, you should try this out. And I plugged it in again, and it really held its own against that. And it's a great synth by Della and the team. And the desktop version you can pick up for 350 quid, which I think for a 3 oscillator analog synth with that level of hoof, I mean, it does sound very good. I mean, it's a little rough around the edges in places, but now they've got the editor, we could share patches. I mean, I just think it's a really nice synthesizer, and it really suits the kind of places I like to go sonically. So that's my pick for this year. And it was, I think, released just this year. It might have been announced in December, but it didn't come out till January. I'm sticking to that anyway. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. So, folks, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It feels like we're probably at the end. Next week is the quiz. We'll see how that goes. It's going to be chaos as ever, but that's what we like. It's good fun. Gaz, when's your next gig then? Have you got one tomorrow night?
Tomorrow. Yeah, no, tomorrow. So, I mean, we played Exeter yesterday, and I'm driving up because it was like a day between gigs. That's why I've managed to just pop home for very brief, less than 24 hours.
What's your smalls?
So, yeah. Yeah, actually. Yeah, I'm gonna go back with a lot less kit. I took a whole studio's worth of kit with me as well. So I was, with that plan of like in hotel rooms,
don't we all?
Yeah, and so I'm going to drop. That's all going to stay. I'm going to go back with minimum amount of kit. We are in Nottingham Rock City tomorrow, so that's so if anyone is in that area, in fact, if anyone is in the Nottingham area and wants to come, drop me a line. I might be able to get you on the guestie.
Whoa!
On that. And I've only got like 2, so
time limited. Time
limited for anyone.
There we go. Sonicstate meet and greet opportunity at somebody else's gig. Yeah,
meet and greet with it over a certain distance. Meet and wave really. Yeah. Yeah, and then we're off now. We don't know. I think it looks like we're going to do it, but we got after Nottingham, we're off to Leeds, and then we're up for the Scotland tour. Now that's quite a controversial one because Scotland have
they've got different passports,
new restrictions. So so fingers crossed that's going to happen, and that's going to take us to Edinburgh, Glasgow, and somewhere where I've never been before, Aberdeen. So hopefully it'll happen. But yeah,
Oil City. It's the Texas of the United Kingdom. Yeah.
New Year's Eve.
Wow, great. Yeah. Oh, so you're out over Christmas? Oh my.
Well, yeah, day before Christmas Eve I'm home, yeah, so.
Right. Oh, well, have a great tour, Gaz. Lovely to speak to you. And
thanks so much.
Very, very soon. And, of course, Mr. And Dom Hawken as well. Lovely to have you too. We'll no doubt see you again soon. I'm glad you're feeling a bit better because I know you weren't COVIDed up, were you? But you
false alarm. Yeah, a couple of days.
Just got actually ill, regular ill. There's no room for regular ill. They're boring.
No one cares anymore. I'd have got some sympathy in the past, but no, none these days. But no, thanks for having me, and have a great quiz if I'm not on it, if I don't see you there. And happy Christmas to everybody who's been watching, and thanks to you, Nick, for amazing another year's worth of streams. It's incredible.
Well, you're welcome. It's always fun. And Yoad, thanks to you as well. I hope you get some time off over the holiday period.
It doesn't look like it, fortunately enough. I mean, usually it gets a little bit quieter before Christmas, but not this year. I enjoy mixing, so I'm happy with that. But it's been a good year, challenging, less challenging than 2020, obviously, but I had COVID as well in August, which was quite nasty. So I'm really lucky I feel very lucky to have come out of it. And I'm now being I think that everyone who had it is being really extra cautious because it's not nice at all. So I'm very glad to be back and working, and I feel very grateful to be doing what I'm doing, and happy Christmas to everybody, and stay healthy and safe.
Absolutely, here to that, and thank you very much. Thank you all to the chatties in the YouTube, the IRC, and also Discord. I think it got working again. Like I say, I don't know quite. Everything was a bit sluggish for a while. And thanks to I think that was Wagyu with a pair character cheerfully blowing a party horn. Thank you very much. That will go to. I was hoping we were going to be able to have a Christmas drinks thing, but it looks like that's going to be not possible just because of restrictions. So we'll have to move it to next year. Maybe we'll get a spring collect thing together, or maybe I'll just spend it all on me and get get drunk. No, I'm sure I won't. Yeah, another one in from David Ramirez. Thank you very much. Look forward to that. Anyway, so folks, that's it for this week. Don't forget, quiz next week. Don't know who's going to be on yet, but maybe we'll push the boat out and get more people on. Who knows? It might be fun. That's it for this time. That was Sonic Talk. Gosh, what was it? 694, 695 even. Good Lord.
Wow.
Not far to go till 700. See you all next time. That's it for this time. Bye bye now. Take care.